Rachel Morgan had always been intense. Whatever she did it with her whole heart. No halfway feelings, no emotional shortcuts. When she wrote her first novel, she did not just imagine the characters' lives. She lived them. Every heartbreak, every burst of joy, every whispered line between lovers. It all bled onto the page straight from her own chest. Telling stories was how Rachel connected with the world. It was her compass, her oxygen. But the truth no one saw, buried beneath the soft language of her award-winning children's books, was a hidden galaxy of complex emotions that she kept sealed tight. Except with Noah. With Noah Preston by her side, she had found a love most women only read about. It was loyal, steady, protective. Noah was the kind of man who opened car doors, remembered anniversaries, and brewed her coffee just right when she was stuck in a writer's fog. He would quietly leave the mug on her desk, give her shoulder a squeeze, and leave her to her world. He was not flashy or unpredictable, but he was sincere, and for a long time that was enough. They shared a life that felt like a quiet rhythm, a cozy apartment in the heart of Portland, Oregon, where handwritten notes cluttered the fridge, travel photos lined the walls, and crayon drawings from school visits were tucked into kitchen corners. Their life was not perfect, but it was crafted with care. Rachel worked from home, and every time she finished a new chapter, she would rush to show Noah, who read each page with wide, proud eyes, as if he were holding the next New York Times bestseller. He believed in her more than she believed in herself. But that admiration, that steady devotion, that love without drama, somewhere along the way it started to lose its sparkle, and Rachel did not know why. That was when he started showing up more often. Logan Baxter, Noah's publishing partner, the kind of man who had a loud laugh, a sharp tongue, and an energy that filled a room without asking permission. Logan had a way of talking that made you feel like everything he said mattered, even when it didn't. He was spontaneous, charming, a little chaotic, everything Noah was not. Rachel, who had always been drawn to passion and depth, found herself noticing Logan more than she should have. At first, it was innocent, shared jokes, a quick chat about a new book, a compliment on her manuscript. But deep down, she knew. She knew when it stopped being curiosity and started becoming something else. She started comparing. Logan was lighter, bolder. He spoke like he was always chasing the next story. Noah was stable, deliberate, gentle. Logan was fire. Noah was earth. And slowly, dangerously, Rachel found herself wondering, what if? What if she had chosen someone like Logan instead? What if her life had more chaos, more electricity? These were passing thoughts, but they left footprints on her heart. At night, when Noah was asleep beside her, Rachel lay wide-eyed in silence, staring at the ceiling, feeling the strange weight of love that had grown too soft to hold her attention. Not because it lacked value, but because it no longer thrilled her. During a routine lunch at the publishing office, Logan complimented a passage from her newest story. Rachel smiled the way someone smiles when handed a secret bouquet in public. The feeling was warm, too warm, and that warmth birthed a spark she pretended not to notice. From that moment on, everything Logan said carried a different weight. When he laughed at her jokes, it felt bigger than when Noah did. When he told her he liked her messy bun, she hesitated before letting her hair down. When he texted her saying they needed to talk about something important, her heart raced without cause. And at the same time, she tried to reclaim her space with Noah. She planned dinners, suggested walks, asked about his work. She wanted to reconnect, to anchor herself back into the life they had built. But no matter how hard she tried, something always felt off, like part of her had already slipped into another life. A life with Logan's voice in her ears and his eyes following her every move. She never said anything. She continued playing her role, loving wife, successful author, doting partner. She kissed Noah, shared coffee, sent drafts. But the woman he loved was already shifting, even if she had not acted on anything. The doubt became her silent companion. The pull of the forbidden grew with each passing day. Rachel fought it, but not hard enough, because in some strange and dangerous way she liked it. She liked the pull between two versions of herself. One that was rooted in security, and one that was chasing something she could not name. Noah gave her comfort, a love that was real. But Logan made her feel alive. And that, however wrong, was intoxicating. What Rachel did not realize, at least not yet, was how far that silent choice would pull her toward a cliff she could not come back from. It all started with thoughts. Small, seemingly harmless thoughts. The kind she told herself she could handle. It always begins that way, with quiet things that feel manageable until they are not. She and Logan began exchanging more messages. At first, they stuck to professional reasons, quick questions about publishing timelines or cover ideas. But soon the messages shifted. Inside jokes. Shared late-night thoughts. The kind of dialogue she never had with Noah. The kind that felt easy, fun, dangerous. Rachel knew it was a slippery slope, but she stepped further anyway. One afternoon, after a routine meeting, Logan let his hand rest on hers for just a moment too long. It was subtle, intentional. Her pulse jumped. She pretended not to notice. But she liked it. God help her, she liked it. Logan always knew how to walk that line. Charming without being pushy. And Rachel? She knew exactly what she was doing when she did not pull away. The following week, he asked to meet up to brainstorm a new project. They picked a cafe a few blocks from the office. They sat side by side, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Their coffee cooled while they exchanged ideas, but their eyes said things their mouths did not. And then, outside in the fading light of day, he kissed her. It was brief, but deep enough to leave a bitter taste of guilt on her tongue. She walked home with her heart pounding and tried to convince herself it was nothing. Just a moment, a misstep, something to forget. But she did not want to forget. The memory of that kiss clung to her for days. She replayed it like a song with a hook she could not shake. Noah asked her once if she was feeling okay. Just tired, she had said. He believed her. He always believed her. And so Rachel began living in two lives. In one, she was still Noah's loving wife, attending dinners, finishing manuscripts, laughing at his jokes, listening to his stories. In the other, she was finding reasons to be alone more often, arranging meetings with Logan in places that would not raise eyebrows, answering texts that came too late and smiling too wide when they buzzed her phone. She told herself she had control, but that was a lie. Messages turned into calls. Calls turned into habits. And the worst part? They started meeting in her and Noah's apartment. That sacred space, once full of warmth and shared memories, became a place of secrets. Rachel hated herself for it, but she kept going back. It's risky, Logan had said with a grin, brushing her cheek. But thrilling, she had whispered back. It feels inevitable. Their connection fed on adrenaline, on the high of hidden truths and dangerous games. It was like an addiction. And Rachel? She was hooked. She spent her days writing stories about honor, bravery, and values, while secretly living a life built on contradiction. Her sleep became restless. She would stare at the ceiling for hours, counting cracks and excuses. Sometimes she cried in the shower, not because she hated Logan, but because she hated what she was becoming. Still, after every breakdown, she would reapply her perfume and text Logan a laughing emoji, like nothing was falling apart. She was stuck in a loop. Wrong never felt so impossible to stop. The promises she once made to Noah, quiet vows in the kitchen or at the edge of their bed, now felt like empty lines in an old draft. She still said the words, but deep down, she knew they had lost their meaning. There were moments she thought about telling Noah, coming clean. She would look at herself in the mirror and wonder if there was still time to reclaim the woman she used to be. But she always found a reason to wait, delay, avoid. Logan never seemed worried about the future. Life's not black and white, he said. Things work out. Rachel nodded along, even though some part of her already knew the truth. This would not end well. She was hurting the only man who had ever truly shown up for her. One night, after another hidden rendezvous, Rachel walked into their apartment and found Noah asleep on the couch. One of her books rested on his lap. His hand was still curled around the spine. Her heart clenched. For a second, she thought about waking him up, about telling him everything. But she didn't. She just pulled a blanket over him and quietly slipped into the bedroom, dragging behind her the weight of what she was becoming. She no longer recognized herself. The reflection in the mirror looked like a stranger. Even the thrill with Logan had dulled. The fire was still there, but it did not burn the same. And yet Rachel kept showing up, kept going through the motions, as if she were waiting for something outside herself to make the decision she could not. Maybe deep down she wanted to be caught. Maybe that would finally free her from her own weakness. But what she did not know, what she could not yet see, was that Noah had noticed far more than she imagined. Behind his soft gaze and calm demeanor was a man paying attention. To late replies, to distant eyes, to kisses that no longer lingered, to hugs that ended too fast. Noah Preston was not blind, and the unraveling had already begun. For weeks, Noah had avoided asking direct questions. Not because he was afraid of the truth, but because he believed that some truths hurt less when they reveal themselves, clean and undeniable. And deep down, despite what he wished he already knew, the final thread snapped on the night of the annual publishing gala. It was a big evening. Authors, investors, partners, editors, and staff all gathered to celebrate the year's milestones. Rachel was honored as a special guest thanks to the success of her latest book. Logan, as usual, was in the middle of everything, soaking up attention with that confident charm. The night was running smoothly. Music played softly. Champagne flutes clinked. Noah stood near the bar, making conversation, when he got a message from an anonymous number. "Check the third-floor conference room." He froze for a beat, then calmly set his glass down and began scanning the room. No panic, just a cold sense of purpose. He looked for Rachel and Logan. They were gone. He moved through the halls deliberately, avoiding suspicion, checking the terrace, the lounge. Every group gathered in quiet conversation. Nothing. That was when the noise in his mind took form. His pulse quickened. But on the surface, Noah remained composed. He headed upstairs. The third floor was quiet. The door to the conference room was barely ajar, trembling faintly. From across the hallway, Noah could already see what he had hoped he never would. Rachel, too close to Logan, too intimate for any professional excuse. Her hands rested on Logan's chest. She froze the moment she noticed him. The room seemed to stop breathing. Their eyes locked for a second, hers filled with panic, his steady and silent. Noah did not say a word. He raised his phone, snapped a photo, and walked away. The image said everything. It was no longer suspicion, it was proof. The kind of image that ends stories. Rachel stood frozen. Logan tried to remain calm, but Noah's silence said more than confrontation ever could. She came downstairs later, trembling. But when she found Noah, he was smiling, laughing with guests, shaking hands. You would never know what he had just seen. The calm was unnerving, almost chilling. She tried to approach him, but he gently stepped away and walked up to the stage. Noah cleared his throat and spoke into the microphone. He thanked his partners, praised the year's accomplishments. Then his voice shifted. "I want to share something personal before we end the night." He nodded to the tech team. The big screen behind him flickered, and then it appeared. The photo. Rachel. Logan. Mid-moment, a low gasp rippled through the room. Some people covered their mouths. Others simply looked away. Noah stood still. "This," he said steadily, "is the woman I have shared my life with for the last 7 years, and the man I called my closest friend. As of tonight, I am no longer married, and this partnership is over." He gave a brief nod, then walked off the stage. Silence followed him like fog. Rachel tried to slip out, but the stairs were too heavy. Whispers trailed behind her like smoke. She tried to speak to Noah. He walked past her without a glance. Logan looked stunned, cornered. He tried to exit through a side door. Too late. Rachel fled the event, heart hammering. She fumbled with her phone, hands shaking so hard she had to retry 3 times before the car service app would accept her request. When the driver arrived, she climbed in without a word. "Take me home," she whispered. But halfway through the ride, her chest locked up. She could not bear to walk into that apartment. Not tonight. Not ever again. Change the destination, she muttered. North Ridge Avenue. Please. The car rerouted toward Ashley's place, her closest friend from college, who lived a few neighborhoods over. Rachel rang the doorbell with red-rimmed eyes and mascara streaks running down her cheeks. Her phone buzzed with unread messages. She did not dare look. Ashley opened the door and saw everything at once. She did not ask. She just pulled Rachel into a hug. That night, Rachel curled into a ball on the living room couch, silent except for the muffled sound of her crying into a blanket. She slept there, if you could call it sleep, as a woman who had just watched her entire world collapse. Back at the venue, Noah sat alone in the shadows behind the main room. A few staff members approached with quiet support, but he just nodded, polite and distant. As soon as he had the chance, he slipped out. He drove home, packed a bag, grabbed his laptop, his files. Then he booked a hotel room. In the quiet of that sterile room, Noah sat on the edge of the bed. He pulled out his phone, opened the photo one more time, and stared. Noah did not cry. He did not scream. He did not break anything. What he needed most now was distance, peace, and space, enough to start reorganizing the wreckage of what used to be his life. Before heading to sleep in his hotel room, he forwarded the photo, along with a concise message, to the board of directors and the attorney who was handling the termination of Logan's partnership. The matter was no longer personal. It was business now. Meanwhile, Logan left the venue alone, slipping out beneath the cold glare of judgment. His chest was tight, his thoughts spinning. He had tried to keep it together, but panic had taken root. In the parking lot, a few guests were still murmuring, some shaking their heads, others openly laughing in disbelief. Logan climbed into his car, his face flushed with heat and sweat. He drove to his apartment, a quiet one-bedroom he had never shared. When he arrived, he locked the door, turned off his phone, and tossed his coat on the floor like it meant nothing. For the first time in a long time, he felt actual fear. Not because of the scandal, but because of what would come next. He knew he had lost Noah, not just as a friend or business partner, but as the backbone of his reputation. The man who once vouched for him in every boardroom would now tear his name down. He tried calling Rachel, straight to voicemail. Again, no answer. He sat there the rest of the night, phone in hand, waiting for a message that never came. For the first time, Logan realized he had entered a game with no exit plan, and he was completely alone. The next morning, still tucked away in his hotel, Noah sent a direct email to the company's IT department. His message was simple: revoke Rachel and Logan's access immediately. Shut down their credentials. Deactivate their entry cards. He did not want to see them wandering through the office again. By noon, both were officially cut off from the company. The days that followed moved in slow, heavy silence. Noah stayed isolated in the hotel. He sent no updates. He answered no calls. He avoided all face-to-face conversations. Distance was his method of preservation. It was the only way he could still recognize himself. He did not want to hear Rachel's voice. He did not want to know how she felt. He simply wanted space, miles of it. At night, he buried himself in legal files, emails, contracts. He took meetings with attorneys. He signed off on decisions that once would have felt unthinkable. The kind, soft man he had once been, gone. In his place stood someone sharpened, focused, driven by clean separation and self-restoration. Rachel, on the other hand, was lost in a haze of confusion. In the first days after the scandal, she stayed at Ashley's house, too ashamed to even consider returning to the apartment. She tried calling Noah, once, twice, dozens of times. Every call rang through, no answer. She even left a voice message. "I just need to see you once." But her words vanished into static. Eventually, tired of waiting, she went back to the apartment. The moment she stepped in, she felt it. Everything looked the same, but it felt abandoned, like a place where time had stopped, like someone had scrubbed their presence out of every corner. Noah had been gone for days, She set her suitcase down in the hallway and stayed. She brewed coffee, opened windows, turned on the lights. She tried to pretend it was still home. But Noah never came back. Days turned into weeks. Then the legal notice arrived. Noah had filed for divorce. He wanted everything settled quickly. There would be no long negotiations. No drawn-out arguments. The company, legally protected. It had always been in Noah's name, long before the marriage. The only thing Rachel was entitled to was her half of the apartment value. No more. What hurt worse was knowing that nothing else was hers. Noah had moved on. Not out of spite, but out of necessity. On top of it all, Logan was hit with a lawsuit. Breach of fiduciary duty. Noah had evidence. Logan using company resources to coordinate their affair, meeting in company offices, breaking trust on every level. It was swift, brutal. The public scandal only made Noah's case stronger. Logan was ordered to pay a hefty settlement, both for emotional damage and breach of partnership trust. The blow was final. Rachel and Logan became untouchables in the publishing world. Their contracts were canceled. Speaking engagements vanished. Even their social media followings collapsed. They tried to justify, to explain, to soften the public judgment. Nothing worked. They had become symbols of betrayal. And while they spiraled, Noah rose. He threw himself into rebuilding the company with relentless effort. He signed new voices, launched debut authors, reinforced the brand's integrity. Ironically, the same scandal that destroyed Rachel and Logan brought Noah's business into the spotlight. His story, man betrayed by wife and best friend, drew public sympathy. Readers rallied behind him. Bookstores gave his imprint more shelf space. Sales skyrocketed. The brand exploded. In less than a year, his company doubled in size. Noah never made a show of it. But deep down, he knew he had won. Not just in business, but in finally cutting away everything that had held him back. He had chosen to begin again, with dignity, and he had succeeded. Subscribe, like, comment,